I want to bring in Major Garrett and Ed O'Keefe. And Major, we heard from President-elect Joe Biden when there was a vacuum in leadership, when all we could see in the country and the world could see was a mob riot, scaling the walls of the citadel of liberty, the United States Capitol. It was the President-elect Joe Biden who addressed the nation to say that this is an unprecedented assault on democracy.
Correct. And he said the president's words matter. A bad president or a good president. Always the words matter. They can inspire or they can incite. And let us be absolutely clear. The linkage between the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and this violence, this grotesque, lawless spectacle of the United States Capitol is direct. There is no ambiguity about that. The president, mere moments before this happened, said in a speech to these very people that the election was stolen and that they had to do something about it. And the warm-up speakers went even farther than that. So the connective tissue between the president's rhetoric, his attitude about this election, his repeated falsehoods about what did happen when it was the most scrutinized, transparent, and well-conducted election in American history, has created not just the atmosphere, but the motive and the intention that played out so malignantly in the United States Capitol today.
Ed?
You know, there have been instances like this at the Capitol in recent years. There was a shooting situation in 2013. There was the shooting at the baseball practice in 2017 involving many members. But never before, as Nancy said, in the modern age had we seen something quite like this. Perhaps just that 1998 shooting involving 2 officers there. And never during such an important moment in the transition of power and for American democracy. This is supposed to be the capstone of the 2020 election. This was it. This is the official finale. And what a way for it to end. And I think it's somewhat it's terrifying, it's disappointing, it's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking is the word I've heard over and over again today from Democrats, Republicans, from people checking in across the country who are just learning of what was going on. It's just heartbreaking.
We started this day talking about what was, in some ways, a civil war going on within the Republican Party, because that bitterness, that division that has been apparent in Georgia led the party to lose 2 Senate seats. As CBS News has now declared that the Democrats won both of those Senate runoffs, handing the Democratic Party 50 seats in the United States Senate that will allow Kamala Harris to be the tiebreaker. That has enormous legislative implications, also for who Biden can choose as his appointees. It was what conservatives, what Wall Street business executives were so threatened by, worried about, that now Democrats essentially control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And that really changes so much about this town. And yet, the blame being placed on the President of the United States, and some lawmakers are deciding to stick with him, and then others deciding it's the end of the Trump era.
We've spent much of the last 2 years talking about divisions within the Democratic Party. Ideological, stylistic, generational, gender, racial, nothing as profound as this. There is a total cleavage now in the Republican Party because this was such a profound demonstration of anti-democratic behavior today at the Capitol with the world watching. And I wonder now what on earth the Republican conversation is like. There will be some serious conversation, official conversation with Republican leaders because they're supposed to be meeting this week in Florida, Georgia for their winter meeting to figure out party leadership and how you move off this current cycle into the next ones, and you just wonder if those conversations can even continue. One other just bit of news that's come through here. The Senate Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, telling reporters a little while ago, 8 o'clock when asked what's next. He said 8 o'clock. Not entirely clear, but that would suggest that perhaps they're going to go back into session in the Senate in about an hour and 20 minutes.
All right. And part of that effort then and the Capitol will be secured by the National Guard. CBS News has reported that the Army is activating the entire District of Columbia National Guard, 1,100 troops in response to this request from Mayor Bowser. That being announced from the Pentagon, the acting secretary, noting that that was made in consultation with the vice president and leaders of Congress. Notably absent from that conversation was President Trump, which has raised eyebrows. But it looks now like this is going to move forward on the Capitol. There's still a lot of activity on the streets of D.C., despite the fact that the curfew has been in place for some 45 minutes now.